Flags on the field. It's a miracle. Tennessee has pulled a miracle.
Welcome into the Feels Like 99 podcast, the home of your 6-4 Tennessee Titans. I'm your host, Drake Kizer, and I am joined today by my co-host, Caleb Waters.
Man, I am going on strike for the Titans until they prove to me that we can win a game, a real game. I think, you and I need to get a new collective bargaining agreement to do this podcast on the Titans.
We need a new agreement with the league to continue being fans of the Titans after that performance on Thursday.
What is it? Today we're recording on Monday, so I'm going on strike for 4 days. Might come off a strike for Thanksgiving. I don't know yet. I'm going to need a handwritten letter from Coach Malarkey after what we had to look forward to all day and what it ended up being. But what did you think, man?
I was very disappointed in our performance. I feel like we came out really, really flat, and I was just very disappointed. But I'm very excited that we get to rip into these Titans here on episode 6, the Brett Kern edition of the podcast. And we actually have a pretty special episode this week. We got some Thanksgiving stuff going on. Actually going to post, we're really not exactly sure when we're going to post this one this week, but like you said, we're recording on a Monday, so we got plenty of time to get it up for everybody to listen to for the holiday. But what we wanted to get into first this week was actually a little Mount Rushmore and Mount Flushmore for Thanksgiving. So first off, we're going to do a Mount Rushmore of Thanksgiving activities. And what that is going to entail is me and you both giving our top 4 favorite things to do with Thanksgiving. It could be food-related, activity-related, just anything like that. So if you want to go ahead and go first, if you want to, you can give your top 4 Thanksgiving activities.
All right. That's very interesting, and I think our listeners will really enjoy the segment. I put plenty of thought into this, as I'm sure Drake did. I'm going to start from number 4 and move to my number 1. Well, my number 4, if any of our listeners know me personally, they know that I'm a clean freak. I love cleaning the house for Thanksgiving. I love cleaning the garage. Everything's nice and clean. So that's my number 4. My number 3 is probably cutting the turkey, I guess. Some years I've done it, some years I haven't. My number 2 is probably dropping the first turkey with my dad. It's pretty cool understanding all the work that goes into making such a good meal. And, I just always enjoy that. It's a kind of a special moment, that I have with my dad. And, not everybody can, do that kind of stuff. So that's my number 2. My number 1 is going upstairs at about, I'm not sure what time the first game kicks off. Right as it's kicking off with my plate of food, kicking back and watching football on Thanksgiving while I am having the best meal of the year.
I'm right there with you. I think Thanksgiving probably is my favorite meal. I mean, it's always the best because Christmas, you still get some good food, but it's just not like Thanksgiving. It's something completely separate, completely apart. So I guess my top 4 Thanksgiving activities, I got to go. Number 1, probably just like you said, sitting down and watching the Thanksgiving football game. It's, always a lot of fun to sit down with the family and kind of all huddle around the TV and watch the Lions usually mess up a game that they're in. It's always them on Thanksgiving. I'd say second would just be sitting down around the table with everybody. And a lot of the times at Thanksgiving, depending on what side of the family you're with or whoever else, a lot of the time you're around people that you haven't seen a lot recently, or maybe in a couple months, or maybe even since the last family function. So a lot of times it's cool to just sit around and talk and whatever, catch up with people. I say number 3 is just getting to eat the good food. We got to talk about that. It's, I'm really not a huge turkey guy. I'm always going for the ham. love ham. I love mac and cheese, rolls, like sweet potatoes, all about the fall foods. And I'd say number 4 is just, I don't know, just like Thanksgiving is just like the start of like great 2 or 3 month period where like the weather starts changing and like football gets really important, like playoffs and stuff, and college winds up and we're about to go on break, and then it's Christmas and then all this other stuff. So like it's just the start of like the best time of the year for me, especially being in school. So I think that's my Mount Rushmore of Thanksgiving activities.
Man, I think I need to cancel the podcast. I cannot believe you just said you don't like turkey on Thanksgiving.
It's
man.
like sacrilegious.
Yeah, man, it's almost like you hate Christmas. Like, who hates Christmas?
It's
Who hates
un-American.
Exactly. So, we just did our top 4. So now we're going to do our bottom 2 least favorite things. So, Drake, would you like to start this one off?
Yeah, we definitely need to talk about our Mount Flushmore, the 4 worst things about Thanksgiving. I would say that probably one of my 2 is going to have to be, I'd say small talk. Just small talk about like, kind of like I was talking about earlier, like it's cool to catch up with people that you haven't seen in a while, but you feel like it always kind of goes back to like the same thing, like how's school or how's this or how's that, like just really, really general stuff. Like I feel like it takes the table a while to like warm up to everything, and get everybody kind of back where you can actually have a conversation about something. And then I'd say my other one would be getting too full. Like you eat so much and you're like, then you're just tired for the rest of the day and you just gotta like take a nap or something because you're just like miserably full from eating so much.
Yeah, those are 2 good ones. One of your 2 actually show up on my least favorite list. So my least favorite thing, I'm going to go my least favorite to my second least favorite. Definitely my least favorite thing is, like you said, small talk. Like, this is going to sound horrible for me to say. But if I haven't spoken with you in a year's time, or at least had some sort of contact, why are you asking me now? Because I know that you're asking because you're obligated to. So
Right.
I definitely find that awkward. And I'm just like, wow, this sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because that, and like deep down, if they really cared or if they really like wanted to know, then they would have like shot you a text or something like, oh, I don't know, maybe like the whole summer or whatever else. Like, They do not care.
Yeah, I'll probably take some heat from my parents if they listen to this for saying this, but I'm not going to lie and say, hey, I really like talking about stuff I don't like to talk about. Like,
Well, that's what I would say. Like when you get around the table with people that you haven't seen in a while, it's cool to like catch up, but that's not small talk. You know what I mean? That's not like, oh, like how's the weather or whatever, like stupid stuff. Like if you're really going to talk about something with somebody you hadn't seen in a while, like kind of cool. Maybe you could share some experiences or what's happened or whatever. But if it's just they haven't been keeping up with you, I don't want to talk about it either.
Exactly. So, I'm probably gonna face some heat from my dad at least. Like, he's gonna be like, son, why would you say that?
Yeah, it's terrible.
But I guess I haven't. That would be my number 1. There's probably a distant 2, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my distant 2 would just be like, this is going to sound horrible too, but it hasn't been as cold here as it used to be, obviously due to global warming and, whatever your belief on that is.
Right.
Me and Andrew, my brother, and sometimes my dad, we would go throw football, throwing it around the yard like, oh, it's Thanksgiving. And people would start coming. I'm like, wow, I'm cold. Like, and mom and dad would be like, go help so-and-so, and I'm like, oh, Mom, it's cold outside. Dad, you have legs too, man. Like, I'll take some heat for saying that too, but I like to be honest with our listeners. And if taking heat from my parents for speaking what I feel happens, I did my job.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta There's some hot takes on here. You never know what you're going to serve out there for the people to enjoy on the podcast. We do. You gotta speak your mind.
Exactly. And, it does help that I don't say names on this podcast. So,
exactly.
Any family member that might stumble across this, they're not like, so when you said what you said about me,
seeing me.
Yeah, you hate seeing me and talking to me at 7 minutes and 21 seconds of episode 6. Why did you say that?
You think that The Rock has come out here to disagree with your little Thanksgiving message? You're wrong. Quite frankly, The Rock agrees with everything you've said. You see, first and foremost, Thanksgiving is a damn fine holiday. Secondly, after you eat the meal, there's nothing wrong with unbuttoning your pants. And thirdly, let The Rock set you straight on just a couple of things. You see, the Pilgrims weren't kicked out of England, they left England. They left England, they came over to America, and they landed on a place called Plymouth Rock.
Plymouth Rock!
And you see, Thanksgiving, it's not about eating and drinking. No. It's about giving thanks.
And
Exactly.
As I've gotten older, it gets easier to talk and, just come out of a shell, I guess.
Well, that's what me and my dad were actually talking about on the way to Thanksgiving. One of the Thanksgivings that I've already went to actually was, just kind of talking about as you get older and kind of get out of being a teenager and whatever else, like it really does, like the whole stigma about sitting at the adult table or whatever else, like it really does kind of end, because at a certain point, like you're an adult too, you know what I mean? Like, you can have an educated conversation with anybody about anything, and like they don't treat you like a kid anymore, you know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's that big step, like you're saying, from the kids table to the adult table. And speaking of the kids table and adult table, a sports writer in Nashville that I listen to pretty much daily, Clay Travis, he gave actually a really good analogy about our game against the Steelers. And he said the Steelers, Patriots, and at the time the Chiefs hadn't lost to the Giants yet, and the Chiefs are at the adult table, while the Titans, Jags, and Texans, and whoever else he said are at the kids table. And, that kind of just gets me a little bit, because he's a Titans fan. He's he has season tickets, PSLs, and like that's such a good analogy, but it just pains me to hear our own fans talking like that.
Yeah, and I feel like the national media, especially after that game, which we definitely need to talk about here, our absolute blowout loss against the Steelers, I'd say that's definitely our biggest topic this week, is just all of the absolute bashing that the Titans have faced in the media. But I was actually listening to Pardon My Take, the Monday episode today, talking about Week 11 in the NFL, and they were just kind of looking over the standings and everything like that, kind of like you were saying, and they're pretty high on the Jaguars, obviously, because they love Blake Bortles and whatever, but they were just going over how right now the two AFC wildcard teams would be the Titans and the Ravens. And just, you know that they're not Titans fans. They have no dog in this fight or anything like that. And, they were just kind of saying like, wow, basically comparing us to just how terrible we are pretty much. Like Big Cat was just saying, oh, well, the Titans have a ton of holes. Like they played so awful the other night, and just basically comparing us to other garbage teams and basically making a big joke about how they were saying the Titans or the Ravens or the Jets are going to have to make the playoffs because they've won so many games already, basically making a joke about us.
Yeah, I have to disagree. I don't think our biggest topic is last week's game. I think it is about the University of California, Los Angeles, a.k.a. UCLA, firing Coach Jim Mora and then giving our old friend, Coach Jeff Fisher, a call.
Oh my gosh, I cannot believe that, especially because they're so supposedly anyway. They're right there in the Chip Kelly sweepstakes, which I didn't really think that there was anymore, because he had pretty much already been linked pretty heavily to the Florida job. So I wasn't really sure how or why that they would still be pursuing Chip Kelly, but from all indications, I thought UCLA had still been pursuing him. But it seems like now that maybe they're going after Fisher, and I don't know about that.
Man, I have been reading all about Tennessee's coaching search, and the name Jeff Fisher actually came up on a message board that I was reading. And I laughed for probably 10 minutes because they said if we hired Jeff Fisher or whoever hires him, I guess UCLA, would somehow go 8-8 on a 12-game schedule.
I was just about to say that he will find a way to have them go 8-8 on a college schedule. Or really, actually, the true Jeff Fisher is 7-9. That's really the Jeff Fisher season. Just right there where you don't make the playoffs. Like, you're not that bad, but you're just – I feel like in college he'd go 6-6. Just maybe get you to a bowl game, but probably lose it.
Yeah, you'd finish 6-7.
Yeah,
dude, just imagine I have not seen a picture of Coach Jeff Fisher since he got fired from the Rams, but he was looking pretty bad when they fired him. So I can't imagine he would even consider UCLA. And I'm not sure what's worse. UCLA wanting to go get Jeff Fisher or Jeff Fisher probably turning it away.
Yeah, that's how I think too, because honestly, even if they offer him this job, I don't really know that he would even take it. Like, especially because he's a USC guy. Like, why in the world would UCLA be trying to hire a failed NFL coach and also the alumni of their biggest rival?
It's absurd, man. It's almost as absurd as the game we watched on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think that the reflection of how we played is basically the reflection of where UCLA is at in their football program, and that is a downward trajectory for both at the moment. But, I try to find a little bit of hope, light at the end of the tunnel, whatever you want to call it, at any game. But honestly, at the end of this game, I had a tremendously hard time doing that.
Oh, for sure, dude. And you and I were, shooting texts back and forth about how disappointed we were. And not only the team, but the play of Marcus Mariota. This was the Titans' time, like we said, and have been saying. Every primetime game we get, it's like, all right, it's time to break out, show everybody who we are. And that was a big thing on SportsCenter and Sports Talk Radio. It's time for the Titans to show us if they're for real or not. And, as much as it disappoints me to say, we showed them that we were not ready.
No, and we really showed that we were just completely upstaged. Like, we had no business even being on the same field with the Steelers in that game. And it honestly makes no sense because I know deep down that the Titans are not as bad as they played. But they went out on national TV in a big game. All eyes were on this game, with the sky cam and all that other kind of stuff going on and the color rush and just a huge platform. And we go out there and what's supposed to be our star quarterback, a rising guy in the NFL, goes out there and drops 4 picks. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you could not have done more poorly on such an important game, an important stage, not even to show anybody else, but just to prove to ourselves that we are contenders, that we deserve to be in that same conversation that the Jags are getting into of, wow, maybe this is a team that actually could host a home playoff game, and I'm just severely disappointed.
I think that was the first time in a long time that I was just sick about the Titans. We were, like I said a minute ago, we were texting each other wow, this is pathetic. And, as much as I want to, and I'm sure you could attest to this as well, I want to give the Titans the benefit of the doubt because, we have a lot of young guys and a lot of things went wrong. Everything that could have went wrong. And we just never really were like, okay, let's go. And they got destroyed on really all sides of the ball. I felt like every time the Steelers got the ball, they were going to score. And every time we got it, we were going to punt or we were going to do something just to mess us up. And, like I said, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong.
It really did because I feel like we did not capitalize on the big play opportunities and the big chance opportunities that we had throughout the game because we started off very poorly, obviously, with early Mariota interceptions. And the worst part of it is that the game really didn't slip completely out of our reach until that fourth quarter. That's when we started just really, really getting pounded into the ground. But the nail in the coffin in this game was we come out right after halftime, hit the big play to Rashard Matthews and everything else on Skycam. It looked awesome, and Twitter's going crazy, and this is the best thing ever, and we look great, and all this kind of good stuff. That up by letting the Steelers score, and so then it's 23-14, and we're actually driving again. We actually have decent momentum. We didn't let that get us down, but then Delaney Walker drops that touchdown in the end zone. Absolutely inexcusable, awful. I really did. I came unglued from the couch. I was so upset, so mad, because I just knew right then and there, that's it. We're done. We will fold after this. Kicking a field goal is not what we need right here, and it was. That was the beginning of the end.
And it's like you said, man, as soon as that ball hit him in the face mask, the air out of the balloon, just disappointment. And, he dropped that pass, and I got to give Delaney Walker credit. He catches that ball 100 times out of 100 times, except this time. I don't know what happened, but I think it was just such a great throw that he just dropped it. And, it's just disappointing, man. You know what else I was disappointed about? Why in the world did they choose this game to go from the Skycam? I was probably like the Antichrist for that camera, honestly. I could not believe that I was watching a football game like that.
Yeah, I really did not like it at all. We were, me and my roommates were kind of sitting around watching it, and we were saying the same thing. Like, it was honestly giving me a headache. It was just hard to watch. It was hard to understand, and it really did only work and look cool and stuff like that if it was basically just a all-out passing play. But on the running plays, there's just not much to be gained from it. I didn't necessarily hate it, but I definitely did not like it, and I liked that down the stretch of the game they switched to a little bit more of a hybrid type of broadcast. They would show that sometimes, and they'd show traditional, and that's not necessarily too bad, but I would not watch a whole game in Skycam ever. They would have to adjust the camera angle quite a bit for it to be comfortable to watch.
Absolutely, man. They were like, oh, it's going to look just like Madden. It looked nothing like Madden.
No, that was way too low. It was basically at the quarterback and the line, right there. You could not see any receivers, anybody outside, nothing.
Exactly. And I don't know who gave, I guess, NBC or NFL Network. I don't know who gave the okay to do that, but we got to have a little talk.
It was bad.
They just had to, I just want to sit down and watch a normal football game. If I want to play Madden, I will go play Madden. I can go right now.
That's what I'm saying. That's the sentiment that I feel like most people have been saying is they heard from a few people when they had to play that game. It was the Patriots game, but it was all foggy, and they had to use a Skycam type of angle. People were like, oh, that's cool and whatever else. But honestly, when people say stuff like that, it's almost like sarcasm. You know what I mean? It's not really oh, wow, we should, have a whole game, have a whole season like that. That is not what we want.
Exactly. And I assumed that they were just going to try that on one channel. Because I thought the game was going to be on NBC and NFL Network.
Right.
And I was like, okay, that's fine. Maybe I'll flip back and forth. No. I just don't know why do people get paid freaking millions of dollars to come up with stuff like that. And I literally just thought of that. Okay, whatever. Skycam for a couple of plays, maybe a drive or two. And if I like it, I will literally keep it on that channel. But if I don't want to play Madden, I shouldn't have to be obligated to watch my favorite team basically play real life Madden. And
that's actually a realistic idea and something that can be easily implemented, because if you think about it reminds me of the NCAA tournament, because always come tournament time in the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16 even, I think, they start doing those regional broadcasts where if you put it on TBS, then it's the Kentucky announcers. But then if you put it on TNT, then it's the Wisconsin announcers. And then on CBS, it's the neutral announcers or whatever. So it's almost they call it fan broadcast or whatever else.
Yes.
We're not even talking about that. Let's just do one in Skycam, like you're saying, maybe on NFL Network is the Skycam. And then on NBC is just the normal deal,
Exactly. And, they're not going to, NBC and NFL Network is probably not going to listen to this podcast. And you know what? They shouldn't have to understand people's frustration. I think they kind of did, when they kept going, like you said, the hybrid, first and second down, Skycam, third down, normal. Even when the camera was normal, it was not very good.
No, it did. It kind of just threw everything off for the whole night, really, because you could tell they were just kind of set up to use Skycam only. So when they had to start using more of the traditional cameras, it just didn't look as crisp as some of their other broadcasts because they just weren't really thinking that they were going to have to use them much.
Exactly. I don't know who was like, yeah, let's try it, man. No. If I ever have to forcefully watch another Skycam football game, I will literally not watch. I don't care what game it is. It could be the Super Bowl. That's how against it I was. And they're just, I don't know who was like, yeah, let's try it out, only give one option. And like you said, like how they do the NCAA basketball tournament, that is how it should have been. And they should never use the Skycam as the main broadcast camera again. It was atrocious.
It really was. And I'll tell you what was really atrocious, and that was what the Steelers did to us all over the field as far as Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger, because Antonio Brown torched us for 10 catches, 146 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Ben went 30 of 45 for almost 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. It was an absolutely miserable performance because the Titans were attempting in any way that they could to get pressure on Ben, and they just could not do it. Roethlisberger actually completed 72.2% of his passes for 3 touchdowns and a passer rating of 120 when the Titans sent extra blitzers. So you can just tell right there how absolutely awful we played defensively when we have been talking about for weeks the defense has been the most promising part of this entire team.
Exactly. I just don't understand why we were so bad.
I don't either. And see, my thing was like, I don't understand why we were dialing up the pressure so much and we just couldn't get there. We just could not get to it, literally.
It's just absurd, man. I think the Titans might be a coaching staff away from being that elite team that they need to be. And do you think it's time for them to possibly get rid of Coach LeBeau and Coach Robisky on the offensive side of the ball?
See, this is actually something that I was very anxious to talk about today because part of my take this week, the guest was Lawrence Taylor, the famed Hall of Famer, LT, Giants pass rushing great, sack artist. And they actually asked him about Bob McAdoo, obviously, who is failing right now for the Giants, but actually was able to pull off a pretty impressive victory this week, considering how the Chiefs usually do coming off of a bye. Andy Reid usually does pretty well. But, they were basically asking him, like, what do you think that they should do in that situation with McAdoo? And basically he brought it back to the early years of Bill Parcells with the Giants. They were no good. I mean, they really weren't. And they were trying to drive Bill Parcells out of town because they didn't ever think that he was going to amount to much. But he had a locker room of players that were behind him. And, basically what LT was saying was at a certain point, Parcells learned the guys that were with him and the guys that were not necessarily on the same page as him. And when his back was against the wall and the organization was kind of coming for his head, he changed his philosophy. It's something that really struck me about what he said was, Parcells was really worried about in his early years, I coach this guy here or whatever, or, I'm loyal to this guy, or I don't want to do this because, it might hurt somebody's feelings or whatever else. I feel like we have so much of that going on in this organization, from the coaching staff to specific players that we keep playing, that we keep giving opportunities to, that we keep utilizing, even though it's obvious that they have no business even being in the league anymore. And so we're either going to need to adopt the philosophy with Malarkey that you either need to change and you need to adapt with the times, or we just need to clean house entirely, basically start off with John Robinson. Where do you think we need to go from here? Because we've got way too much of this it's contributing to dysfunction because we're loyal to a fault. You know what I'm saying?
Something I don't think a lot of people know. Coach Malarkey is 55, which isn't too terrible of an age for an NFL head coach. It's probably about the average, I would say. I don't think a lot of people know. I didn't know this until I was told the other day. Terry Robisky is 63 years old. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
I would have thought the dude was like 50, maybe 40 in the 50 range. No, he's 63. And it's kind of like, it's going to kind of sound bad, but I think I'll say it anyways. It's almost like when your grandparents ask you when they get an iPhone, how do I work this? I feel like that's where we are with this offense. I think, Coach LeBeau is 80. It's kind of the same thing. Yes, he's a great defensive coordinator, but could we go out and get, 2 guys or maybe even an entirely new staff that puts our players in a true position to win? Because I felt like we haven't gotten to that point this season, and I'm not sure that we will.
And see, that's the thing. I feel like, kind of like you're saying, if we would stop being so just loyal to a fault, that is the best way that I can put it, because you just think about it from the very top of this organization. They were so loyal to Mike Mularkey that whenever we fired Ken Wisenhunt and let him be the interim coach, we didn't even interview anybody else. They can say whatever they wanted. We brought people in, whatever. They knew that Mularkey was going to be our next coach. And with him, he brought so many allegiances and loyalties and everything else. There's no way in the world that he would ever fire Terry Robisky. You could not ask him to do that. You could never get rid of Russ Grimm. You could never get rid of LeBeau. He would never cut Harry Douglas. He would never cut Matt Castle. And just all these other guys, or like Bryce McCain, he's a Dick LeBeau guy, or whatever else. These players are not equipped to still be in the NFL. You saw how Bryce McCain got absolutely torched against the Steelers on that opening drive. Looked absolutely ridiculous that we even had him in the game. And just you could tell that it starts from the top of this organization. We're way too loyal to losers. That is what they are. If you really want me to put it to you straight, they are losers.
I have to completely agree, man. And yes, we've had a great turnover rate of players since John Robinson has been here, but maybe it needs to be a little bit higher. We need a winning culture, and we haven't had that ever as an organization, I don't think. And I think for us to get there, we need to go get a new coaching staff.
And see, that's the thing. I feel like the closest that we've ever been to a championship type of culture was, basically the namesake of this podcast, 99 to about 2001 or 2002, because you had guys that led that locker room and a coach in Jeff Fisher, who was actually still a relatively new coach, and he always was a great defensive mind. You always have to give that to him. Whenever he had the players and the schemes and everything else, that's why some of his guys that worked under him, like a Greg Williams or Jim Schwartz or whatever, guys that have worked underneath him are also great defensive minds because he's a great teacher in that way. But, the thing that really made those teams different was they had a hard nose. They were tough. They had guys that would not give in. They had Bruce Matthews and they had Eddie George and Steve McNair and guys like that, Frank Wycheck. Just bangers, grind them out kind of guys that would go to war for this franchise. I feel like we do have some guys like that right now. But then on the flip side, we've got guys that I don't feel like at the end of the day, if they got cut and never played another game for Tennessee, they would not care. They'd go play somewhere else.
I completely agree, dude. I don't even know, man. It's so tough for me to sit here and, rip these guys that I'm so invested to as a fan. But it's like you said.
Well, performance really speaks more than anything else. And, I do. I absolutely love a lot of the guys on this team. I really do. It hurts me as a fan because I want them to do so well. I really and truly do. Nothing would make me happier than to see the Titans really, really have success and get into a big national discussion about being respected and everything else. And, I just want this franchise to be on the type of trajectory that basically I want them to get on that Cubs path, of 5 or 6 years ago to now, where they were just losers. They were awful. No one cared about them. No conversation about them at all, to championship winners, championship contenders, MVP candidates, guys and all-stars and stuff like that. Really a household product, a household name, and that's where I want the Titans to be. And I feel like they're in a good spot with John Robinson, but everything below him, I'm telling you, man, loyalty to losers.
Yeah, man, this coaching staff has put us in a position to lose just about every game we've played. Do you think with the long week that our coaching staff will help us get into a position to beat the Colts?
Well, I hope so. I think so, because, this is a 3-7 team that we're playing. The Colts are coming off of a bye, but they have not played very well this season at all. Obviously, Andrew Luck out for the entire year. Brissett has had some injury issues like the concussion that we talked about on a previous episode. The Titans actually have 9 days to recover. Coach Malarkey said that they're feeling very healthy and everything like that. You know, Byard and Arakpo were the only ones that got injured last game, but they're both fine. Quentin Spain did not play well coming off of an injury last week, but hopefully he improves. So, you know, just like every other week, I feel like the coaching staff mainly is just going to have to coach and basically just stay out of the players' way. I feel like sometimes they coach themselves in the way of the players. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You know, it's like they're trying to do too much, but they're doing too little, if that makes any sense at all. It's kind of like the second half of the Cincinnati game where we were kind of like, oh, could this be where we step on their throat and end it? Nope, you know.
Exactly. And I feel like sometimes, too, just some of the schematic stuff that we do is almost more harmful than it is good, because some of the things that we ask players to do is just outside of their comfort zone, or you just know that it doesn't work. I'm a big proponent of working on things until you can establish them, like establishing the run or something like that. I got it. You're going to have some negative runs or ones that go for no gain or whatever, but there's a difference between that and just pounding it away and just getting nothing, you know? And I feel like that is strictly a coaching decision to just keep pounding away.
Exactly, man. There's no doubt about that. Hey, I really have to go to the bathroom. Can I, take a 5-minute break?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I'll be right back. Whew. All right, I'm good now. Don't eat Mexican food before you make a podcast. That's all I gotta say.
All right. Well, with that, I guess we should go ahead and get into our predictions for this game. So, Caleb, what do you think is going to happen when we square off against the Colts?
Man, I don't even know at this point. You know, I'm going to say this game, it could go one of two ways, as every game could. The Titans could come out and look atrocious like they did, or they could come out and look really, really good. So I'm going to say they win this game. Yeah, it's at Indianapolis, right?
Yep, it is.
Okay, so I'm going to say that the Titans win this game 31-20. We should win it 45-0, but we're going to win it 31-20. In ugly fashion, I will say.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that we will probably come out on the road. I don't know. I almost want to say that we might have the type of performance that we had against Jacksonville earlier this season, where we went out on the road in the division, and for whatever reason, we just decided that was going to be a game that we were really just going to play well, especially as impressive as that win is now with how the Jags have played the rest of the season. So I don't find it hard to believe that the Titans could go on the road this week and hopefully be able to, regardless of what fashion, I'm not going to take any type of loss over a win. So it does not matter to me how we get it, whatever. I don't care what the score is. I'm going to predict that we win this one. You know, I think that we probably will not get over maybe 21 points or so. So I'm going to take us in this one maybe like 21-10. This will be a low-scoring affair, I think. Hopefully our defense can get back right a little bit. I don't think that we're going to come out and put on an offensive show, but, I think we'll get at least semi back on the right track. The Colts are pretty awful. We've already beaten them at home on Monday night, so we kind of have a game plan of what works. So hopefully we can have at least a decent performance and stay right in the thick of things as far as we're leading the wild card spot right now in the AFC, and if we can take it down to the wire with the Jags, either if they lose a few games or if we both just keep winning, then looks like that last game of the season might be to decide, maybe both teams go into the playoffs, but definitely who's going to win this division.
Yeah, I would say that's a good prediction. It's fair on both sides. I hope it's wrong, but I have to agree with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hope that we just come out and absolutely blow them off the field because we totally have that potential to be able to do that. But, I just can't be too optimistic after what I saw on Thursday because I feel like the main thing that we really need to see as far as this game goes is turnover-free Mariota. I'm not even saying that he's turnover-prone or anything. Just I'm going to need to see a game from him that's highly efficient, passing the ball and everything like that. I hope that we don't pump the brakes on him or something and just not let him throw at all because I feel like that is not going to be a good look for maybe not particularly this game, but just the rest of the season. Like, we need to keep throwing. We need to just keep letting him do his thing. He'll find his way out of this little slump by continuing to do what he does, not by trying to scheme our way out of it or whatever else. So hopefully we don't mess up his progression and everything else by getting too scared by these early season interceptions.
Back again this week, we would like to reintroduce one of my favorite segments, fan questions. Drake, are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready for some fan questions, so fire away.
Yeah, we've got 4 actually great questions from our listeners. Our first one comes in from Jordan. Jordan, how you doing? If you could pick one Titans player's family to spend Thanksgiving with, who would it be and why? Yeah, that's a tough one. I haven't really thought about it too much. It's a great question, though. If I had to pick, I would say that I would go to probably one of the offensive linemen or defensive linemen. I would probably go to Ben Jones because he's kind of a redneck, I would say, and
Yeah.
I feel like there would be a lot of great food.
See, I'm with you there because the last game that I saw him on the getting off the plane picture and the travel and everything else, this dude was wearing some like flannel and the Bass Pro Cap and everything else. So you feel like that he would probably have some great home cooking at his place. But I guess if I was going to choose where to go, I would say I'd probably go with Marcus because I bet they've got some crazy different stuff that we wouldn't even think of to have for Thanksgiving. Those Polynesians and Hawaiians and Samoans, like they eat good. So I think that they'd have some really great stuff that I'd enjoy getting to try.
Oh, for sure. That's a great one I didn't think about, but, it's a good one for sure. It'd probably be my second choice. Our second question also comes in from Jordan. She asks, who do you think gives the best Christmas gifts on the team?
If I had to guess, if we're talking strictly players, it seems like that Brett Kern is actually someone that really does give some great gifts because him and Bo Brinkley actually teamed up and got Ryan Suckup like a really nice like matted and framed jersey with pictures and some stuff signed from the both of them and whatever else to commemorate his streak, like, his big field goal made streak inside of 50. And it really was. He posted about it. It was really, really cool. I feel like a lot of punters, especially with the whole Pat McAfee for the brand thing going on, I bet he gives out some cool like Barstool swag or something like that. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Brett Kern.
That's a good one. I didn't even think of that, but I'm going to have to go with Marcus on this one. You see a lot of guys around the league getting their offensive lineman gifts, and Marcus, the offensive line would literally die for him, So that just tells me that he's a good dude. I'm sure he's going to hook him up, you know what I'm saying? Maybe some vacation time out on Hawaii's Lost Islands.
Yeah, maybe I'm sure he's still got the Beats connection. I know he took his phone call on draft night in those Beats, so I bet he's still got some connections up there. He's got all of that Oregon Nike stuff. Like, Marcus has got some connections.
Oh yeah. So our third question comes in from Andrew. Andrew, how you doing? He asks, "What is your favorite celebration of the year?" Dude, Rashard Matthews, the surfing celebration is my favorite. It's almost like a thank you, like thank you for hooking me up with a touchdown.
Yeah, I do. I like that one. I'd say my favorite celebration, which I didn't even really notice or know about, until I, watched some of the pre-draft videos on Marcus and his touchdown celebration that he always does, no matter what touchdown. And it's he touches his chest 3 times and points to the sky every single time. You're like, watch him score any touchdown. He does the 3 touches and points up. And he said every single time it's for basically his parents and his brother. And, basically it's just like a little thank you to them that they have, basically made him the person that he is. He's a big family guy, just a tremendous person, cares a lot about his family members and stuff like that. So that's a special one to me, especially because I don't really think that we have anybody other than Matthews recently, but no one else on our team really does a very distinct touchdown celebration. Yeah, I guess I'll definitely take Marcus's little tribute.
Our final question comes in from Andrew again. He asks, who is your front runner for Rookie of the Year and MVP? I was thinking we could take this in 2 directions. Front runner for Titans Rookie of the Year and MVP, and then the rest of the league. So, Drake, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll go ahead here. If we're talking MVP for the Titans overall, not just rookies or anything like that, I would say definitely MVP of the Titans would have to be Kevin Byard at this point. He has been the leader of this defense. Even in that atrocious Steelers game, he still gave up only 1 pass for 1 yard. He's very rarely targeted. He has 6 interceptions, still leading the NFL. He has played absolutely amazing this season. So I think he's definitely got to be the Titans MVP. As far as Rookie of the Year, I'm going to have to go with Adoree Jackson. That's just got to be the easy choice. I mean, he's actually started every single game this season. He's been playing a ton. He's our kick returner, punt returner, everything like that. He's all over the field. He's gotten some carries on offense, stuff like that. I think Corey Davis would be giving him some stiff competition if he had played this entire season, but due to the fact that he has missed some significant time, I think you got to go with Adoree Jackson.
Yeah, I honestly completely agree with both of what you just said. I would almost say team MVP Marcus, just because they're a totally different team when he's not out there,
Right. I definitely agree with you there. He's very important.
And Rookie of the Year, again, Adoree Jackson. I would say my league Rookie of the Year, that's tough, I'm going to have to give it to Deshaun Watson for what he came out and did in the time that he was healthy. And as far as league MVP, probably Tom Brady.
Yeah, if we're talking league MVP and league Rookie of the Year, I think if he continues to play the way that he's playing, I would definitely say Tom Brady for league MVP as well. Kareem Hunt with Kansas City has definitely slowed down a lot in the Rookie of the Year race. And actually Alvin Kamara, the former UT Vol, has actually been quite impressive too. So he might be sliding in a little bit into these conversations, especially if he takes a few more carries from Mark Ingram down the stretch. But yeah, I think it's probably a race between those two at this point as far as league Rookie of the Year. But I'd say Kareem Hunt probably takes it just because he had a stronger start to the season.
Dude, I think, like I'm about to say, I think Alvin is just going under the radar of a lot of people. It didn't even cross my mind because he's not playing like a rookie. He's playing outstanding. He basically won the game for the Saints last night.
He did. He's been very, very impressive. It baffles me that he was basically relegated to mostly bench status at UT and, was hardly allowed to get a lot of carries and everything like that. And this man is just tearing it up in the NFL. So, I've been very impressed with him. I know he played well last season, especially after the whole Jalen Hurd incident and whatever else. He finally was allowed to get on the field a little bit more. So he took the most of his opportunity and transformed himself into an even better player for the NFL ranks, and it's really showing.
Absolutely, and it makes me sick to think that he sat behind who. I'm not even going to say his name.
Yeah, he's like Voldemort, man. You can't even say his name.
Yeah, dude. It's a total Butch Jones move, though, and I am so glad to see him tearing it up in the NFL, man.
Oh, yeah. And I don't even have a dog in the Tennessee race, but I do. I like to see guys from SEC schools do well, especially guys like that, just because, they aren't the most heralded guys, but you saw him play a lot. I watched him play numerous times and everything else like that. And you just kind of get invested in guys that you've seen play on multiple occasions. So,
but wait, there's more. Hang on to your seat, baby.
So I think this takes us into our final segment of this episode, the Atrocious Takes segment, sponsored by Ronald's Napkins. They clean your face. So Drake, would you like to go first, or do you want me to take it first?
Well, I guess you can take the first atrocious take so I can give a little time to think about mine.
I'm going to say there are 5 block punts in this game, none of which are from our own Brett Kern. I think the Colts will be hurting without the Pat McAfee show. I think there'll be 5 punts blocked, but get this. The Titans win the game 3-2. And Coach Chuck Pagano and Malarkey, They have some heated words for each other after the game. And then I'm going to say Dante Moncrief and T.Y. Hilton try to take on Taylor Lewan and Jack Conklin in a one-on-one on the 50 of Lucas Oil Stadium. And the game-winning field goal is a 65-yard field goal.
Sets the NFL record?
Yes, that's the NFL record. We win it at the last second.
I think that T.Y. Hilton is going to act like he's going to get into a fight with R.D. linemen, but actually he's going to join forces with R.D. linemen and just start beating up his own offensive line, considering he's already criticized them this season for being awful, as they have been. He's not wrong, but still. Okay, so my second atrocious take, and probably my best one of the week. This might be my best one overall. I'm trying to beat Andrew after last week with his great one about the Lewan. So my atrocious take is that, we've been hearing a lot about Jim Irsay maybe going a little bit crazy, and he's been saying some strange things in the media, even stranger than normal, talking about how his quarterback, Andrew Luck's injuries and inconsistencies and stuff like that might just be all in his head, basically implying that he's crazy and everything else like this. So I think to really cap off the insanity of Jim Irsay and what's going to just drive him into complete oblivion is the ghost of Bud Adams is actually going to come back and sit with him in the owner's box at Lucas Oil Stadium and is just going to steer him completely off the deep end, and I think that Jim Irsay will never be heard again after this Sunday.
He might just throw the double birds out the box, man.
Yeah, he'll just take him over. He'll basically be
possess him. Is that all you got, man? We good?
Yep. I guess we've kind of winded up another one here. We've kind of touched on everything, and we're kind of gearing up for the Thanksgiving holiday. I definitely think that. Like you said earlier, the Monday recording is throwing us off a lot. I think there's going to be a lot to edit and cut out of this one, but hopefully we can make something that our listeners will enjoy listening to over this Thanksgiving holiday.
For sure, man. If I don't talk to you, which I'm sure I will, hope your family and yourself have a very, very thankful Thanksgiving, as I hope I will do the same.
Yep. I wish you and yours all the best, and hopefully I'll be seeing the Waters clan soon, maybe over Christmas or something, when we can get into some live pods. So, like you said, hope you have a good holiday, and I'll catch you later.
All right, and we would like to wish our listeners a great Thanksgiving. Hopefully you all have a wonderful meal with your families at home. But that being said, just remember what the first Thanksgiving was all about. We kicked Native Americans out of their land. Just remember that while you're chowing down on your turkey. I know I will.
Go home, have yourself a good Thanksgiving, and here's a little bird for you to enjoy right now.
Oh, my God.
You've been listening to the Feels Like 99 podcast with Drake Kizer and Caleb Waters. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Feels Like 99 Pod. You can find it on YouTube at Feels Like 99 Podcast. You can find my co-host Drake Kizer on Twitter at Drake Kizer _. You can find myself on Twitter at Caleb Waters _14. So signing off for myself and my co-host, Drake Kizer. This is Caleb.
Thanks, ugly God. Thanks, ugly God. Thanks, ugly God. Thanks, ugly God.
Wouldn't want to cluck you. Yes, it should be that.